Hey there, this is my system for writing and publishing a daily newsletter in Beehive and then turning it into a daily podcast with Transistor. I distribute this via Transistor to all the major platforms where you get podcasts, and I also have it linked up so YouTube automatically imports every episode. That means that when I upload the audio podcast, YouTube just automatically grabs from the RSS feed and makes a video out of the audio podcast. And as you can see here, it uses the image that I've got for the podcast as the background for the video. First thing I've got over here, I've got scheduled posts. So I've already started doing this, and I'm going to walk through a full one entry with you while you're watching, and it's going to be this one, a cluttered agenda. So this is the post for March 6th coming up next week. And over here on the right is the Transistor back office page. I'm going to go into the last post. And the way I've found that makes this a lot easier is just copying and pasting the show description, because I do have a daily show, and it just I want people to be on the newsletter more than reading anything else in this description. We're going to create a transcript from the actual written text and add that here in a moment. So that will be helpful for SEO purposes for the podcast page, but I'll go over that in just a sec. So the only things you actually need here are an episode title and, of course, an audio file. So a cluttered agenda MP3. And then I add this episode artwork because I like having custom artwork for each page. The podcast feeds don't require it, but it also lets us do that neat little trick with adding it to YouTube, and it's pulling separate artwork for each page or for each episode. If we didn't have that, our feed over here on YouTube, it would all look the same and be quite weird. So I this is not optional to me. I like having that. Okay, we're going to now schedule the publish date. We said March 6th. I do this at midnight so it releases before the newsletter goes out, because I reference the YouTube link in the newsletter. So I want it to be available for people immediately. Then once we do that, we add a transcript right here. They've got this AI feature coming up, but we don't need it because it's a newsletter. We've already written exactly what we have said in the podcast. There's that. Create transcript, and that simply lives as a TXT, a text file on the podcast. Okay, so there it is. We've created a podcast episode. Now, one thing I like about Transistor is they have this website feature where they build a website out of your podcast feed automatically for you. And as you can see, I've added a custom domain, so it lives for me at podcast.progressandperfection.com. I think it's pretty sweet. This is a pretty slick site, and does a fine job. You can click any episode, opens it up, and there you go, plays the episode. One more thing is, how do I record the stuff? I mean, I've already recorded all these. You didn't see any of that. If you'd like to see my system and process for this, for using Ableton Live, please let me know. I'm happy to walk through this. It's a little bit more technical than things like Audacity or other programs that you might use, but this is just simply what I enjoy myself. I also put a week's worth of episodes, as you can see, at a time in here. And that way I don't have separate files I'm opening up back and forth. And I can just drag this little cursor up here to the start and the finish of each of these days' reflections. And there we go. All right. And then I export it. I make sure encode MP3 is on. And then we just say, hey, that's number 5, things above. And it takes like a minute, less than a minute, to export each of those MP3s. If you'd like to see more about Ableton, let me know. Happy to walk through that one as well. Check out the link for Beehive in the description. Also, if you need a newsletter, very generous free plan. I've also got a coupon in my link if you need some of the fancy features that I'm using. You get 20% off 3 months after an initial 30-day free trial. It's a good deal, and for me, it's been worth it if you're using some of those advanced features. If you want to see the video of me going through Notion and how I actually make, write, and publish these daily newsletters, then check out this video next. Hope you have a great one, and goodbye.